Hi, and welcome to the bonus content of the English Functional Grammar course. I'm so excited to bring this information to you. And this is the first video in the first lesson of the bonus content section. And in this lesson, I'm going to be talking about process types. So what are processes? Processes are events such as doing, happening, thinking, feeling, and being. They're expressed by verbs, and process is a function of the verb. Now, in order to understand the basic process types, let's take a look at this wonderful painting by George Frederick Watts. I really love this painting, and it's called The Minotaur. Some of you might already know that the Minotaur is a monster from Greek mythology. He's half man and half bull. And he lives alone on an island, and he's only fed every 7 years when a ship brings him food. So let's describe this painting. I'm just going to make up some sentences to describe what I see in the image. He's standing outside. He's leaning on a ledge and he is holding a bird. Can you see the bird just underneath his hand there? Maybe he sees a ship and he thinks it will bring food. Maybe he feels sad. He looks lonely. He is brown and he has horns. He is the Minotaur. Okay, so let's look at these three sentences. Standing, leaning, and holding are all actions. And they answer the question, what is he doing now? In linguistics, we call these processes material processes, but in this course we can call them action processes because they are literally actions. Okay, he sees a ship. Now, seeing is a different process from standing and leaning and holding because seeing is not really an action. It would be kind of strange to answer the question, what is he doing now, by saying he is seeing a ship. Okay, because seeing is not an action, as I've said. Seeing doesn't really require any effort. It just kind of happens when you open your eyes. So, seeing is not an action process, it is an internal process of perception. So we can call it a mental process. Here are some other mental processes. Thinking and feeling. So for example, he thinks it will bring food, or he feels sad. So thinks and feels are both internal or mental processes. These are processes that occur inside the mind. So what about this sentence? He looks lonely. If we say he looks lonely, the verb looks doesn't have the same meaning as in he looks at the ocean. So looking at the ocean is similar to seeing, but by saying he looks lonely, it has a very different kind of meaning, so it's a different process. If we replace the verb looks with is, then the meaning is very similar. So in this case, looks is a process that has the same kind of meaning as is. So looks relates the Minotaur with loneliness. We can call it a relational process. Now, the most common relational processes are being and having. So, for example, he looks lonely. He is brown. In this sentence, is relating the Minotaur to brownness. He has horns. In this one, the verb has is relating the Minotaur to some feature, some part of his body. And in the sentence, he is the Minotaur, the verb is relating an identity to the pronoun he. So these are all examples of relational processes. Okay, so far we've looked at 3 different process types: action or material processes, mental, and relational. In functional linguistics, there are 3 more types of processes, and these are behaving, saying, and existing. So let's start with the first sentence here. He is looking out to sea. Looking is similar to an action, and it's also similar to a mental process. It's kind of in between those. So looking is less physical than standing, but it's more physical than thinking. So this in-between category of process is called a behavioral process, or a process of behaving. In the next sentence, he says he is bored. Says is literally a process of saying. And we can call these verbal processes. In the third sentence, there is a bird in his hand. The verb is tells us that a bird exists. It's not relating the bird with a quality or an identity. It's just saying that there exists a bird. So we call this kind of process an existential process. It's a process of existing. So there you have it. Those were the 6 process types: action, mental, relational, behavioral, verbal, and existential. Now, one thing that you have to remember is that these categories all blend into each other. And what this means is that sometimes it's quite difficult to know exactly which process type it is. But in summary, processes are events that are expressed by verbs. There are 6 process types, and this point is very important. There's no one-to-one relation between a verb and a process. Because as we have seen, the verb look can be either behavioral or relational. The verb is can be a relational process or an existential process. Now, it's very important to develop an understanding of the basic process types because process type is closely related to tense. And tense is what I want to start talking about in the next lesson. Now, I'd also like to acknowledge a video on YouTube called The Transitivity System, and that was created by Jed Hopkins. This video also uses a painting to explain process types. It was a very interesting video, and it helped me to design this lesson. So I really recommend that you watch this video, especially if you want to learn more about process types. But that's it for now. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.